Welcome to the Super Dietability Podcast.
Welcome. In the previous episodes, we talked about returning quickly after disruption and protecting the results you build over time.
And today, we move into something that sits underneath both of those abilities, something that silently drives behavior.
Yes, because before consistency, before maintenance, there is one thing that constantly influences your decisions: appetite.
And the challenge is that most people don't clearly distinguish between appetite and actual hunger.
Exactly. Hunger is a biological signal, but appetite is often a conditioned response.
Hunger builds gradually, it's physical, and it can be satisfied with almost any food.
But appetite is different. It appears suddenly, it's specific, and it's often triggered by environment, emotion, or habit.
You see something, you smell something, you feel a certain way, and suddenly you want to eat.
Not because your body needs energy, but because your system has learned to respond that way.
And this is where appetite fixability becomes essential.
It is the ability to recognize that signal and not automatically act on it.
Because without this ability, every trigger becomes a command.
And over time, that creates a pattern of constant intake.
Which means the issue is not just what you eat.
But how often you respond to the urge to eat.
So the goal here is not to eliminate appetite completely.
That's not realistic, and it's not necessary.
The goal is to become aware of it and reduce how often you follow it.
In practical terms, this means you start observing your impulses instead of reacting immediately.
For example, when the urge appears, instead of acting on it, you pause.
And you ask a simple question: is this hunger or is this appetite?
That pause alone changes behavior.
Because it creates space between the trigger and the action.
And in that space, you regain control.
Over time, this becomes a trained response rather than a forced decision.
You begin to ignore a significant percentage of those appetite signals.
Not all of them, but enough to shift the pattern.
And once that shift happens, something important changes,
You are no longer constantly feeding the system.
which naturally supports the abilities we discussed earlier.
Because now, staying consistent becomes easier and maintaining results becomes more stable.
So appetite fixability is not about restriction.
It's about awareness and selective response.
You don't remove food,
You remove unnecessary reactions
and that distinction is what makes this ability powerful.
because it works in real life, in real situations, without requiring perfection.
Over time, you start to experience a different kind of control,
Not forced control, but structured behavior.
and that structure becomes part of your system.
Not something temporary, but something consistent.
This is appetite fixability.
The third of the 7 diet abilities.
In the next episode, we'll explore insulin awareability.
Stay in the system.